Today, we're going to dive into a really interesting piece of digital infrastructure that's all about making workplaces in India safer. We're talking about the SheBox portal. It's basically a centralized government system that acts like a digital watchtower. So, how on earth does it work? Let's get into it. I mean, that sounds like a massive job, right? How can you possibly keep an eye on what's happening in all these different offices, factories, and shops all at the same time? Well, that's the exact problem we're going to unpack today. And the SheBox portal is the government's answer to that very question. For a long time, there was this major gap in workplace safety. A complaint filed in one company might be handled completely differently than one in another, and there was no real guarantee of a fair process. There just wasn't a single unified system to make sure every single issue was heard and tracked. And that's exactly the gap SheBox was built to fill. So, what is SheBox, really? Okay, think of it like this. Imagine a national, totally confidential mailbox for the school principal. Any student, or in this case, any working woman, can drop a complaint in there and they know it's going straight to the right authorities. That's the whole idea. It's one single, secure place to report workplace harassment, and it doesn't matter if you work in a huge tech firm or a tiny local shop. Now, you might be wondering, why do companies have to register? Well, this isn't just a friendly suggestion. It's actually a Supreme Court directive. Registering on this platform creates a direct line of communication, making sure every complaint is officially logged and that nothing just gets, swept under the rug. At the end of the day, it's all about creating a transparent system where everyone is held accountable. Okay, so for this whole system to actually work, the portal uses two very different roles. And it's really, really important to understand the difference between them because they have completely separate jobs. Let's break down the administrator and the investigator. The system is pretty clever about how it separates these jobs. So on one side, you've got the nodal officer. Think of them as the school's registrar. They're handling all the administrative stuff, getting the company registered, adding all its branches, and just making sure the information is up to date. They manage the who and the where. Then, on the other side, you have the internal committee, or the IC. They're like the school's disciplinary committee. They're the ones who actually investigate the complaints, digging into the what happened, and deciding on the next steps. So if we dig a little deeper into the nodal officer's job, you can see it's all admin. They're the ones who set up the entire company profile on the portal, they file the required annual reports, and they kind of keep a bird's eye view on the status of complaints. Basically, they're making sure the entire system is running smoothly behind the scenes. And this brings us to a core rule of the whole system, a very strict separation of duties. This is non-negotiable. The person who handles the administrative paperwork absolutely can't be the same person investigating a case. It's designed specifically to prevent any conflict of interest and to make sure the process is fair and unbiased. Just imagine if the person who registers you for classes was also the only one who decided your disciplinary action. That just wouldn't work, right? Okay, so we've got these two distinct roles. But how does an entire company, maybe one with like 50 different branches, get set up on this portal? Well, it's all done by building a digital map of the organization, piece by piece. Let's check out how that works. The setup follows a really logical top-down approach. First things first, the company picks its administrator. That's the nodal officer. Then, that person registers the main head office. This registration gets checked and verified by a government official. Once they get the green light, the nodal officer can go in and add the investigators, the IC members, and finally, they can link up all the individual branch offices to the system. Here's another easy way to think about it. Picture a school district. The head office is like the main district office. It has to register first and get everything in order. Once that district office is on the map, it can then add all the individual schools, or in this case, the branch offices, under its umbrella. Each of those branches can have its own staff and its own investigators, but they are all connected back to that one central head office. So, we've gone through all these roles and processes. Let's take a step back and ask the big question. Why does any of this matter? What's the real big picture impact of having a centralized system like ShareBox? This whole system really boils down to delivering 4 huge benefits. First, accountability. Companies can't just ignore their duties anymore. Second, transparency. The entire process is clear and it's all tracked online. Third, centralized tracking. This means the government can actually see the data from across the entire country, all in one place. And finally, direct access. Any woman now has a clear, straightforward way to file a complaint. It all circles back to creating a safer and more responsive workplace. All right, let's do a super quick recap of the key terms just to lock it all in. First up, SheBox. Think of it as a national digital mailbox for workplace harassment complaints. Next, the nodal officer. That's the company's administrator, like a school registrar, who handles all the paperwork. Then there's the internal committee, or IC. That's the investigation team, kind of like a disciplinary committee that actually looks into the complaints. And finally, the hierarchy. The head office has to register first, and then it can add all of its branches. Simple as that. And that's our look at the SheBox portal. If you found this explainer helpful for getting your head around this really important system, please do me a favor and hit that like button. Drop a comment with your thoughts, and of course, subscribe for more explainers like this. And hey, if you think this will be useful for others, please share it with your classmates. And I'll leave you with one final thought to chew on. SheBox centralizes workplace safety reporting. So, what other complex systems in our society, maybe in education or healthcare, or even public services, could benefit from a similar centralized approach to create safer, more transparent environments for everyone? Something to think about. Thanks for watching.